Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Evvekk, and this is my first impressions of Torchlight 2. Torchlight 2 is a traditional action RPG, and some people have been tempted to write it off as just a Diablo clone. Although I would have to say it's more as if Diablo were a bad Torchlight clone. And you see, the key difference between Torchlight 2 and Diablo 3 is that Torchlight 2 does not have a real money auction house. Now, Blizzard decided that they were going to have a real money auction house in order to incentivize you to spend your real money on fake equipment. They had to mess with the drop rates and screw with the game balance and turn the whole thing into a grind fest. Torchlight 2 doesn't do that. It doesn't demand the player's money, and it doesn't waste your time in the same grind-festy way. Torchlight 2 is pretty good about giving you area and level appropriate gear, and plenty of cash for you to go buy some if you can't just find any. Now, when Blizzard made the auction house, one of the things they said was that it would be more fair to players with less time on their hands, because, if you don't want to spend all the hours and hours necessary to grind to get good gear, you could just whip out your credit card and buy some. In reality, all this did was make the game less fair. The bad drop rates were bad enough. All that the auction house did was make people with extra cash the only people who could really enjoy the game. Torchlight 2, on the other hand, solved the players with lack of time by, like I said, just handing out appropriate gear. So what you really get in Torchlight 2 is a much fairer environment, especially when it comes to PvP, because in Diablo, a dedicated hardcore PvP player is just going to go out and buy the absolute best gear that they can find, and that's going to put them miles and miles ahead of people who don't buy gear because of Diablo's crappy drop rate. So Torchlight 2 is much fairer on the budget gamer. It's also fairer on the people with not so much time. One of Torchlight 2's other really great features that I absolutely love is the inclusion of, I'll just call them micro quests. Now, these aren't really mini-quests or side quests, because you have a quest log, but these things don't go into the log. They're just things you'll be going about the game, and you'll just stumble across them. One of my favorite examples is this tower I found with a gigantic skeleton impaled into the stone with his own sword. And there's just, like 4 or 5 skeletons walking around the tower, no big deal. I ran over, killed the skeletons, and some more skeletons popped out, and some runes on the tower started to glow. So as you stayed around this tower and you killed these progressively harder and harder waves of skeletons, eventually the tower would glow really bright and the big skeleton would pull the sword out of himself and come down and fight you. And it was sort of like just an impromptu little survival scenario where you had to stay in one area and hold off as many hordes of people as you possibly could. Now, I've found all kinds of different variations of this sort of micro quest idea, as I'm calling it. For instance, there have been ones where I'll just be walking around and a little thing pops up that says, "Defend the crystals from the goblins," and so you have to run around and defend the crystals. It's no big deal if you miss these or you fail them or whatever, but if you do get them, you get a nice little extra reward on top of the loot and XP. The other really enjoyable thing, I think, is the variability that each class actually has. There are 4 classes in Torchlight 2. There's the Engineer, the Berserker, the Ember Mage, and the Outlander. I'm not going to pigeonhole each class into any specific role, because as I'll explain, they're all very, very broad. For instance, the Berserker, he's a 2-weapon melee fighter, is what people traditionally try to play him as. But he has a very viable summoning skill tree where you can primarily become a summoner. Alternatively, you can go sort of 2-weapon, high-damage sniper type character where you just run in and blast a boss to tiny little bitty big bits. He also has a very viable casting branch with cold related spells and whatnot. This casting branch ties in very well with the melee, so you can spec your character out to slow people down and freeze them and immobilize them, and then just sort of pound them to tiny shards of ice while they're all frozen. Another example would be the Engineer. The Engineer has typical high-powered melee attacks, but you can also spec them out to be an incredibly durable tank and kind of support character. For instance, they have a little summon that follows them around and sends out healing bursts of energy to heal all of your allies. They also get other summons, by the way, but I don't think it's quite as viable as a Berserker's summoning tree. So if you don't want to be the heavy-hitting melee character or the big, bulky tank, you can also spec your engineer out to be sort of an AoE fire damage guy by putting skills into points that make you slam your weapons into the ground and produce great big shockwaves of flame and whatnot. So while there's 4 classes, each class can take on a variety of roles, and it's entirely possible to have a very well-balanced team without necessarily having all 4 classes. Another thing that's very good about Torchlight is they provide you with enough skill points that you don't need to pick one specific role or tree or spec and stick with it hard. You're encouraged to hybridize your character. For instance, the Berserker, like I was saying, his cold, slowy deal hybridizes very well with the melee. So it's not like when you become a character, you say, I'm going to do the 2-weapon fighting thing. You say, I'm going to do the 2-weapon fighting thing and also be a summoner on the side. So you have your minions catch flack from all the little trash mobs while you just kind of go around all that and trash the boss's face. Or for instance, with the engineer, which is at the moment my preferred class, I'm a tank who does the AoE damage. So when we get to a boss fight and there's all these trash mobs, I just kind of lap off damage while I blow all the guys to little bitty bits, and then in the end it's just me and the boss, and I'm tanking all of his damage. It makes the fights a little long, but it's much more manageable for me personally because I hate seeing a screen just full of dudes. At the end of the day, however, Torchlight 2 is still an action RPG, so it really depends on if you like that genre of game or not. People who don't like that genre won't like Torchlight 2, but I believe that people who do like that genre will love Torchlight 2. It has got to be probably the best modern action RPG out there, and at $20, it's a definite buy.